Welcome to the Inspired Inkwell, where we uncover the most extraordinary medical mysteries that challenge everything we know about the human body. Today's story will leave you questioning what lurks in the world's most remote places. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more incredible true stories. Dr. John Harris had always been drawn to the mysteries hidden deep within nature's most untamed corners. At 42, this respected botanist had spent his career studying the healing properties of exotic plants, earning recognition for his groundbreaking research on natural antioxidants. His latest expedition to the rainforests of Borneo had been his most successful yet. For 3 weeks, John had trekked through dense jungle canopies, documenting rare plant species with potentially revolutionary medical applications. He had discovered several specimens rich in antioxidants that showed promise for treating various ailments. His research notes were filled with sketches, photographs, and detailed observations that would keep him busy for months. The flight home to Maryland should have been a triumph. John was exhausted but exhilarated, his mind racing with possibilities for his research. However, somewhere over the Pacific Ocean, something began to go terribly wrong. It started as a dull ache behind his eyes. John attributed it to the long flight and the stress of travel. But as the hours passed, the headache intensified, becoming a throbbing pain that no amount of shifting in his seat could relieve. By the time he landed, John was pale and sweating, barely able to carry his research materials. Sarah Harris had been married to John for 15 years. As an experienced physician herself, she immediately recognized that something was seriously wrong when her husband stumbled through their front door. The man she knew as energetic and passionate looked haggard and defeated. "Just jet lag," John mumbled, collapsing onto their couch. "The headache will pass." But Sarah's medical instincts told her otherwise. She helped John to bed, administering pain medication and watching him carefully. Through the night, she listened to him toss and turn, occasionally crying out in his sleep. This wasn't ordinary travel fatigue. The next morning brought no relief. If anything, John's condition had worsened. The headache had evolved into a crushing pain that left him unable to concentrate or even open his eyes properly. Sarah increased his medication, but nothing seemed to help. "John, I think we need to run some tests," she said gently, sitting beside him on their bed. "I'm fine," he insisted weakly. "Just need more rest." But Sarah could see the truth in his glazed eyes and the way he held his head. Something was very wrong, and her medical training was screaming at her to act.
Sarah arranged for John to be admitted to the hospital where she worked. Her colleagues were puzzled by his symptoms. The combination of severe headaches, fatigue, and neurological changes didn't fit any obvious diagnosis. They ran a battery of tests. Blood work came back normal. Initial CT scans showed no obvious tumors or structural abnormalities, but something subtle caught Sarah's attention in the brain imaging. There was unusual activity in a specific region of John's brain, almost like something was moving. "It's probably just inflammation from stress," suggested Dr. Martinez, the neurologist on duty. "These expedition types often push themselves too hard." But Sarah wasn't satisfied. She had seen stress-related conditions before, and this felt different. The pattern of brain activity was unlike anything in her experience. She insisted on more detailed imaging. The MRI results were equally puzzling. The strange activity was still there, but it defied explanation. There were no signs of stroke, tumor, or infection that would typically cause such symptoms. John's condition continued to deteriorate, and Sarah felt helpless watching her husband suffer. After 2 weeks of failed treatments and inconclusive tests, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She would investigate John's recent travels, looking for any clue that might explain his mysterious illness. Sarah spread John's research materials across their dining room table. Photographs of exotic plants, detailed notes about soil conditions, sketches of unusual specimens. She studied every image, every note, searching for something that might hold the key to his condition. It was past midnight when she found it. Buried in a folder of miscellaneous photos was an image of John crouched beside a peculiar plant with thick, waxy leaves. But it wasn't the plant that caught her attention. it was something else in the frame. Coiled around the plant's base was what appeared to be a small snake. Sarah's heart began to race. She immediately began researching tropical parasites, focusing on those found in Southeast Asia. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Sarah's online research led her deep into medical journals and case studies about parasitic infections. She learned about a rare group of roundworms that typically infected reptiles, but could occasionally jump to mammals under specific circumstances. The pieces began falling into place. John's symptoms, the brain activity, the timeline, everything pointed to one terrifying possibility. Her husband might be harboring a living parasite in his brain. Sarah's hands shook as she called Dr. Anna Chen, a specialist in tropical diseases at Johns Hopkins. Dr. Chen listened carefully to Sarah's theory and asked detailed questions about John's symptoms and travel history.
I need to examine your husband immediately, Dr. Chen said. If your suspicions are correct, we're dealing with a very rare and dangerous condition. When Dr. Chen examined John, she did something that previous doctors had overlooked. She carefully parted his thick hair and examined his entire scalp with a magnifying glass. There, she said, pointing to a small, healed wound near the crown of John's head. This entry point was completely hidden by his hair. Previous examinations missed it entirely. The wound was tiny, no bigger than a pinhead, but it told a crucial story. Something had penetrated John's skull and made its way to his brain. The wound had healed completely, leaving no visible trace on standard medical equipment. We need to perform a brain biopsy, Dr. Chen explained to Sarah. It's the only way to confirm what we're dealing with. Sarah felt her world spinning. A brain biopsy was serious surgery with risks of its own. But looking at John's deteriorating condition, she knew they had no choice. The brain biopsy was performed under local anesthesia. Sarah paced the waiting room, her mind racing through every possible outcome. 3 hours felt like an eternity. When Dr. Chen finally emerged from the operating room, her expression was grave, but determined. Sarah, I need you to prepare yourself, she said. We found what we were looking for. The biopsy results confirmed their worst fears. John was infected with a rare roundworm called Ophidoscaris robertsi, typically found in carpet pythons. The parasite had somehow made its way from an infected reptile to John's brain, where it had been living and growing for nearly 2 months. The good news, Dr. Chen continued, is that we've identified the problem. The challenging news is that surgical removal is extremely delicate. This parasite is alive and moving within your husband's brain tissue. The surgery to remove the parasite was unprecedented. The medical team had to work with extreme precision to avoid damaging surrounding brain tissue. Sarah watched from the observation deck as surgeons carefully opened a small section of John's skull. Using microsurgical instruments, the team located the parasite. It was a thin red worm about 3 inches long, coiled like a spring within John's brain tissue. The sight was both horrifying and fascinating. We have visual contact, announced the lead surgeon. Beginning extraction. With surgical tweezers, the team carefully removed the living worm. The entire procedure took 4 hours, but it was successful. The parasite was completely intact, ensuring no fragments remained behind.
John's recovery was remarkable. Within days of the surgery, his crushing headaches began to subside. The neurological symptoms that had plagued him for months gradually disappeared. His personality returned, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. I can't believe there was a worm living in my brain, he said to Sarah, still processing the incredible ordeal. How did you figure it out? I knew you, Sarah replied, holding his hand. I knew this wasn't just stress or jet lag. Something was wrong, and I wasn't going to stop until I found out what. The medical team was fascinated by the case. It was the first documented instance of this particular parasite infecting a human brain. John's case would be studied and published in medical journals, contributing to knowledge about rare tropical infections. As John recovered, he reflected on his experience with a mixture of gratitude and scientific curiosity. The parasite had likely entered his system through a small cut on his scalp while he was examining plants in the Borneo jungle. A moment of carelessness in a remote location had nearly cost him his life. This experience has taught me about the incredible complexity of nature, John said during his recovery. Every ecosystem has its own hidden dangers and wonders. I was lucky to have Sarah fighting for me when I couldn't fight for myself. The case highlighted the importance of thorough medical investigation and the value of not accepting easy explanations when something doesn't feel right. Sarah's determination to look beyond standard diagnoses had literally saved her husband's life. 6 months later, John returned to his botanical research with a new perspective. He implemented stricter safety protocols for his expeditions and began collaborating with tropical disease specialists to better understand the risks faced by researchers working in remote locations. Sarah's detective work had not only saved her husband but contributed to medical science. Their case became a teaching tool for medical students and a reminder that the most exotic diseases can sometimes be found in the most unexpected places. The worm that had terrorized John's brain was preserved for research, helping scientists better understand how parasites adapt and survive in different environments. What had started as a nightmare became a contribution to medical knowledge that might help save other lives in the future. John and Sarah's story reminds us that modern medicine still faces mysteries that require determination, intuition, and the courage to look beyond the obvious. Sometimes the answer to a medical puzzle lies not in high-tech equipment, but in the willingness to investigate every possibility, no matter how unlikely it might seem. What did you think of this incredible medical mystery? Have you ever experienced an unusual medical condition that stumped doctors? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to the Inspired Inkwell and hit that notification bell for more extraordinary tales that challenge everything we know about the human body. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next incredible story.